It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Wednesday. Gary, what's going on?
No, you're Eric the Great, and I'm Pharaoh Gary.
Eric the Great. Yeah. Doesn't have a ring to it. Harley the Great might have a ring to it. Eric the Great.
Eric the Great sounds like a king.
Eric the Mediocre sounds more appropriate, doesn't it? Eric the Mediocre. Wouldn't that be? There's the story. Make that HBO series. Eric the Mediocre. Tell my men to wait outside. I'll think about whatever we're going to do.
Well, I did some thinking yesterday.
Yeah?
And here's what I was thinking. Because you and I are always saying, where do the Democrats go next? And obviously, over the last 10 days, we've seen. Let's get involved in obstruction of justice. Let us interfere and go where we haven't been invited and attempt to disrupt. And then when security or police hold us or arrest us, then we are the victims.
Yeah.
That's where we are now.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes everything from mayoral candidates, members of the House, and members of the Senate. We'll get to the somebody put the Senator Padilla thing on there and just went where he starts, sniveling and said, "Now you know why men don't vote Democrat."
Yeah. Well,
it's been a ton of memes on that lately.
Yeah.
Why don't men vote Democrat? And then it shows the insanity of what's going on.
Gosh. It really is insane. The media insists on lying through the headlines. What was the one? Oh, I got to find it from the New York Times. Hold on a second. I got to find it because it was funny. What's his name that got arrested today? I don't know if I saved it. And the New York Times said he was escorting an immigrant who was being detained he was escorting him. You mean obstructing?
Yes, exactly. You're obstructing justice. I'm a victim.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, that's what they're trying to do. Please make me the victim so it makes the headline to raise my profile. I care nothing about the people I pretend to care about. This is about me. As AOC says, I'm the boss. I got to have my moment, my viral moment where I look like a victim. Look, ICE is arresting me. That's just what they've become. They've become the professional protester. It's what you do. You start by taking a knee during the national anthem. Next thing you know, you got a Nike deal. That's who they've become.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. Everybody gets a Nike deal.
Everybody gets a Nike deal. You get shoes. You get shoes. We don't have a place on the team for you, but you got shoes. If you were on a team, you'd have the right shoes.
So you use the Nazi label, Hitler,
right,
which is really the same thing,
mm-hmm.
No difference. And we've always asked, where do they go next? Where do they go next? Mm-hmm. Well, the ultimate virtue signaling is to be detained by security or arrested for obstruction of justice.
Right.
Then you're really virtue signaling.
Yeah.
We're defending the criminal illegal immigrants in this country.
That's right.
We're defending them. We want criminals in our community.
Yep.
We're L.A. Give us more criminals.
Yep.
We're California. Give us more criminals.
That's right.
I got to find the polling that was done. I saw there was polling done in California. Man, there's just so much news.
I know.
It's like,
I know. Could we take a breath for a minute?
here it is. A majority of Californians oppose providing health care coverage for adults who are in the United States illegally. The Public Policy Institute of California survey revealed that 58% oppose, and 41% of those polled were in favor of the policy.
Yeah.
The move took effect last year and allowed people to enroll in Medi-Cal, the state's version of Medicaid that takes taxpayer dollars regardless of immigration status. Think about that. That's 58% to 41%. That's 17 points in California.
Yeah.
Has anybody polled California citizens about illegal immigrant criminals?
Here's the handiwork over at the New York Times. Here's what they wrote with the Brad Lander thing. Mr. Lander, the New York City comptroller and a candidate for mayor. What? He's running for office? People who run for office never try to get attention.
That's how you totally virtue signal. I'm the person.
I'm the victim. And here's the key part in this sentence. Was handcuffed as he tried to steer a man past immigration and customs enforcement officers. Then here's another one. Also New York Times. Brad Lander, the New York City comptroller, who was running for mayor, was arrested on Tuesday by federal agents at an immigration courthouse. I just thought that I'd throw some anger in there. I'm not sure if the person who wrote this at the New York Times had that kind of anger. Maybe it wasn't enough anger. At an immigration courthouse in Lower Manhattan, as he tried to escort a migrant whom agents were seeking to arrest. Gary, he was only trying to escort a migrant whom agents were seeking to arrest.
Now, are we talking escort as in the regular meaning or the other meaning?
I don't know what the charges are.
You know, when they talk about being an escort.
Look, I'm not judging anybody's choices in life. I'm just saying that's how they wrote it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
It's the New York Times. New York Times wrote that. We're just reading it. We don't know which version of escort they mean. Maybe somebody could explain it. Wow. Yeah. This is and then the images and all the breaking news headlines, and everything else. Mayoral candidate arrested, detained by ICE, and all the pictures. You get to be a hero for a few seconds. Man, what does it feel like to be a real hero, a real life hero? Not the really silly kind that's mostly CGI that always lands on one knee and crushes the ground below them. A real life hero. Wow. We're so doomed. There are going to be multiple people voting for him. I don't know that he's going to win, but there will be multiple people voting for him going, he's the guy.
I like the communists that are running. There's actual communists.
Yeah.
See how much vote they get. Well, that's the solution.
Yeah,
we need a little bit of communism here.
Right. Look, remember.
Communism, yeah.
Communism starts with commune. The first word in communism is commune, which means everybody just get together.
And remember,
try and love one another right now.
It is the Workers' Party.
It is the Workers' Party. Now, nobody wants to work, but that's okay. We can call you a worker.
It doesn't matter whether you wish to work.
or are actually working.
You will be assigned work. You will
That's
have
right.
no choice.
You know, that's the thing that's a great point that the left leaves out for young people. Oh, this communism thing sounds great. Tell me more about this. Would you, older person? Yeah, the government will force you to work where you're going to work for them. I'm sorry, work? What did you say? I thought we get everything we need and vodka.
That's just because, Eric, the problem is
By the way,
nobody has implemented communism correctly.
There's my king name right there, Eric the Problem, not Eric the Great.
See, that's what you don't understand is communism works. It's just every time it's been tried, the wrong people have attempted to implement it.
Yeah.
You notice that when it's capitalism democracy and there's a constitution that backs it, that it really doesn't matter a lot of the time what the intentions of the people in political office are, as long as you have, as we do still, more constructionist judges who interpret the original Constitution.
Of course, yeah. Yep.
So, yeah, what a day it was yesterday. Just Arnold on The View.
Don't go in there. There's no logic in there. You're just telling lies. Why? What do they even know? I was sitting around with a bunch of people with big hair and lots of makeup and a bunch of noise. I was at a Kiss concert. Detroit Rock City.
They didn't get exactly what they wanted.
No, they didn't.
So we'll get to that. Latest on what's going on in Iran, Israel, the United States.
Yeah.
When you think about the post that he put out, when he put out the post, unconditional surrender.
Whoa. Yeah, that kind of sealed the deal. That answered a lot of questions, didn't it? Didn't that kind of put some things to bed for a lot of people? I wasn't watching social media at that moment, but you really can't dissect that and say, well, it could mean this. You can't go the ninth dimensional chess on that. You really can't. I'm sure some tried, nonetheless.
Well, no, unconditional surrender means
pretty simple.
We don't want a ceasefire or peace deal.
No.
You unconditionally surrender.
That's right.
That means
you're
done
done.
Well, that's the thing that a lot of people missed. You're done as a government. Unconditional surrender means you are no longer in control of your own country.
It's over.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're to Wednesday. So in the next 48 hours.
You know, I don't know if he just did this on the fly and didn't really put any thought to it in terms of the timeline. But the Israeli ambassador to the U.S., when he said the dust settles Thursday and Friday, then it's going to make the whole pager thing look, like nothing. I don't know if he was putting his own timeline to it, just kind of saying over the next few days, generally speaking. But I just had that in the back of my mind. Because we're at this point now, and I told you in the pre-show meeting, I'm convinced, at least at the moment, I'm convinced that the U.S. will be a part of that. There's only one way to deliver that bunker buster, and it's with a B-2. And Israel doesn't have one. And if we're going to take the Fordo plant out, it's going to have to be that particular piece of weaponry. And the delivery of it is going to rely on American service members. Period. Now, is that the full extent? You do that, you carry that mission out, and you're out, and then you wait for, I don't know, the regime to come out and with their hands up and surrender unconditionally? I don't know. Nobody knows what the ultimate plan is, but I am convinced we're going to be the ones who take out the Fordo plant. That an American B-2 bomber will do that. I mean, it's the only way you can do it. If it's going to happen, that's how it will happen. You and I have been talking about that. I think you were the first that I heard anywhere, wondering, okay, what does Israel have? I mean, I think a lot of it, but you specifically said on the bunker buster level, what do they actually have available to them? And then we kind of threw back and forth, well, the delivery of that type of weapon is important. Do they have the ability to deliver it? And really nobody believed they did. There was no information, no intel that they had recently acquired a B-2 or two. So the answer is, yeah, if it's going to happen, we're going to do it. And I'm convinced right now that's the direction we're going.
We've got a great show ahead, 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Every driver knows the cost of replacing tires is a major expense. What if you could save on tire costs without sacrificing performance or safety? Consider retreads, a sustainable, cost-effective way to rack up your miles. Retreads have a reputation for causing that rubber debris or gators found on the sides of the highway. However, studies show that 68% of the tire debris collected on the highway comes from new tires, not retreads. The reality is that retreads will wear at the same rate as new tires if you don't properly maintain them. Retreads are still a major investment and require engaged maintenance practices.
With Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know, I've been reading a variety of different articles out there. I was reading one that was talking about, could Israel destroy the last remaining nuclear site without the United States? Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, yeah. I mean, they could destroy the ventilation system. They could destroy the entrances. They could do a bunch of different.
In fact, they've attempted to. They've already hit Fordo a couple times.
Right.
Yeah.
They could shut off the electricity, and that would set them back months. When I read that article, I was like, that's not the goal. The goal is to set them back decades, not months.
You have to. You have to go in and you have to cripple them to where rebuilding and getting back to this point will take, like you said, decades. It's almost a nationwide blackout on internet right now in Iran. Quite unfortunately for the general public, because you want that propaganda to get to them. The younger people, as you've described, your friends. And I actually know somebody who came here from Iran and has a great life here. Recently had to go back. I haven't talked to him since he went back for a visit. But he told me he was taking two different passports. He was traveling with two passports because he was afraid they would take his passport. And so he kept one secretly. And that's how afraid he was to go back. And we know that the public doesn't support the regime. But there are many things in this entire equation here that, haven't been factored in. The always unmeasurable then what, right? Okay, You take out Fordo, which we need to do. The regime, let's say they overthrow the regime or they're taken out in whatever manner. Then what? That's the question.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, let's see what Democrat Chris Cuomo had to say.
All right.
Just, on what? Well, just in general, right?
Yeah.
Just in general. Let's see. Here we go.
Democrats openly play to socialism now. They're trying to drum up their own populist outrage to match MAGA. They support candidates who don't believe Israel has a right to exist. This is more demonic than democratic. It is proof of extremism corroding our culture.
Wow. By the way, I saw the headline, ex-New York governor accuses his brother of stealing $7 million from their mom, and the first thing I thought of is, what did Chris Cuomo do? And it was actually another governor, David Patterson, ex-governor, David Patterson, accusing his brother of stealing $7 million from their mother.
Well, Patterson got in there when Serpent was caught, the whole prostitution thing.
Yeah,
Serpent,
right.
Serpent 2.0. I can't think of his name at the moment.
A client number 9?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, remember where that happened? Mm-hmm. It happened in the parking lot of the place where I used to spin tunes in Niagara Falls.
Right. Wasn't that where you told them to go?
I go, yeah.
Where they could arrange that?
Yeah, look, since we're on the whole thing of escorts.
Elliot Spitzer.
Yeah, Spitzer. Yeah, Spitzer. That happened in the parking lot of the old Honey's Pizza that had a club in the back of it.
A strip club?
No.
Oh.
No.
Like just a nightclub?
Not, yes. Yeah. And I DJ'd there, 87, 88.
All right. Honey's Pizza, huh?
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was
good
great.
pizza?
It was oh, yes, the best white pizza I ever tasted. I mean,
all right.
They don't exist anymore, but the greatest white pizza ever.
Yeah.
I mean, just the perfect amount of. See, I'm Pavlov's dogs right now.
Yeah, no, I'm hungry.
It's affecting me. I'm thinking about it and going.
Yeah. Oh man, we got to get pizza.
The stomach is growling a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, there's so much. It's a Wednesday and we've got too much audio already.
Okay, it is. Yeah, and we had a 3-day weekend this past week.
Yeah. All right, let's hear from Senator Padilla. All right.
Okay.
On the Senate floor.
Okay.
And remember, Padilla is the one who tried to disrupt the Department of Homeland Security event last week with Kristi Noem, and that nobody knew who he was. Even the mainstream media said, no, he came in and disrupted it. Nobody knew who he was. And when they tried to escort him out, as we know, he fought back. But here he is.
Out of the building. Am I being arrested here? And what will a city already on edge from being militarized think when they see their United States senator being handcuffed just for trying to ask a question? And what will my wife think? What will our boys think?
Which is why men don't vote Democrat. He's crying.
Yeah.
He really thinks he's a victim.
Right.
That I can go in and do whatever the hell I want, and you can't stop me. And if you attempt to stop me because I just barge right in and attempt to interrupt a proceeding that I have the right to do that, I mean, the arrogance of these people. It's like a dual-edged sword here. The arrogance and then the wimpiness. I walked into a place where I wasn't wanted, and security held me back. And then I tried to fight, and they pushed me back.
You know, he's not getting enough headlines with the actual incident, so now he's got to do this on the floor.
Yep.
And my thought is, my question would be, what will your family think of you when your boys grow older and actually look at what you actually did, the truth of what you did, your behavior. What are they going to think of that? Wow. There's no consideration for that?
He actually said, not once did they tell me why. I pray you never have another moment, that you never have a moment like
gosh.
this.
What
a wimp.
Nobody had a moment like I had a moment. I'm a hero.
That's the virtue signaling now of Democrats.
Yeah.
Let's go disrupt proceedings where we haven't been invited.
Right.
Because we have a right to disrupt wherever we want to go.
Yeah.
And also we have a right for obstruction of justice.
Yeah.
Wherever we want to go. And we're going to do this. We're going to do this. We know what the result's going to be. We know security or the police are going to arrest us or detain us, and then we can virtue signal, and this will help us win elections. This will help me feel better about myself. Now I'm doing something.
Well,
I'm pretending that I'm a victim. What a wimp. California, for God's sakes, what the hell is wrong with you electing people like this? This is the same California landslide numbers that illegal immigrants should not get. Make sure it was Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
58% opposed to what's going on right now. Here you got a senator that is defending illegal immigrant criminals in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
California, what the hell is wrong with you? You don't approve of what's going on, and you elect these people that are children. Absolute children. The mentality of a 10-year-old. And my apologies to all 10-year-olds out there.
Oh,
Maybe
and
I'm a little
your
bit
other
over.
senator is Adam Schiff.
Right.
That you elected.
Yeah.
The people of California. Probably not most of our audience in California, I'm guessing.
No, I'm not talking to the people that
Right.
are loyal listeners.
Yeah.
And
I think they know.
the rare conservative
Yeah.
who has been, to use the Democrat narrative and the way Democrat looks at things, Republicans who are kidnapped and held hostage in California.
Right. All of you Republicans, especially you Republican women, who only vote for who your husband or boyfriend or son tells you to vote for, according to Hillary Clinton. Just insane.
I did like the picture over the weekend, the meme over the weekend with Kamala Harris and Hillary, and it said, "Oh, by the way, no queens too."
Yeah, no kings. I got here with no votes. Yeah, how does that happen?
Oh yeah, but that was all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
The party that has done everything to make sure that even the Democratic Party primary voters, those that are really involved in the Democratic Party, that they don't get a say in elections.
2016 and 2024 were prime examples of that. If you didn't learn it in 2016, remember, out west, Bernie was on fire. And then we later learned from the emails leaked from the DNC that it was never going to be Bernie. Let him have his fun. It's going to be Hillary. Remember the Bernie at the convention that year in 2016, all the Bernie supporters?
Mm-hmm.
They let them be angry for about an hour the first day.
Yeah, they were furious.
Oh, my gosh. Then they had to, okay, everybody quiet down now. Put your Hillary shirt on. Put your Hillary cap on and get out there on the floor. Do as you're told. And then Kamala Harris, 2024. Remember, she didn't, in the 2020 primary, didn't even make it to 2020. December 3rd, 2019, she dropped out because her campaign was in shambles and had no money. Then she's picked by Biden and then anointed by the Democrats. She wasn't even invited to the party. She wasn't invited to the dance and ended up being the prom queen. That's how that played out. Keep in mind, too, what was it, Anderson Cooper? September of 23? Well, shouldn't Biden pick somebody else, a new running mate? If he's running again, I forget who he was talking to. Shouldn't it be somebody other than Kamala Harris? The very liberal Anderson Cooper. And she ended up being anointed. But we can't have any kings.
Somebody who was duly elected.
Yes.
I mean, that's the...
Exactly.
I mean, it's
duly elected in the comeback, in the greatest political comeback in American history in presidential settings.
Okay, I know we had the 3-day weekend, and I thought we were done with it yesterday, but when you really just look back at it, and you just sit for a moment, and as I always say, I call it my perverted sense of awe.
Yeah.
And I saw it happening when I was in New York this past weekend. I was in outside Buffalo, and I saw the protests going on, and I was just dying laughing because it's just like it doesn't make any sense. They can't even connect the dots in a protest, and I just went, wow, this is a microcosm of everything that's wrong with the Democratic Party. Everything that's wrong with the Democratic Party you could see right there because it made no sense. And I just sit back. Yesterday I thought about it again, and I'm thinking about it again now, and it's just like, wow, they just don't get it. And then everything here where now it's, okay, let's virtue signal. Let's commit obstruction of justice. Let's get arrested. Let's go in and disturb a Department of Homeland Security statement, because there wasn't a question and answer going on at that point. Statement, attempt to interrupt it. Go to the front, attempt to interrupt it, scream out, be held back by security, start pushing back against security. They don't know who you are. They push you out. They put you to the ground because you're pushing back at them, and you're the victim?
Yeah.
And this is your strategy now?
Yeah.
And you think it's going to work? And then everything that's going on in California, as we mentioned, with Padilla and the protest, and then you see the new poll that's out, Public Policy Institute of California, 58% believe that illegal immigrants, we're not talking illegal immigrant criminals, those who commit other crimes besides being in the country illegally. We're talking about, in general, 58% of the people of California, where their politicians are acting insane. Absolutely crazy. Padilla is a... Folks, in California, you elected a nut job. You elected a child. Hey, I can't interrupt. I can't go up and start screaming at the Department of Homeland Security secretary without them holding me back. And then when I push back against them, as they try to get me out of the room, they grab me and they throw me to the floor. And I'm a victim here. Don't they know who I am? I'm now going to cry. This is like I may do what Scott Farkas did in A Christmas Story. Cry, cry, cry.
Except I didn't say fudge.
My God. I remember when I first got into talk radio. And I remember thinking to myself, when I'd interview a member of Congress, wow, this is a member of Congress. And now I look at it and go, what a damn joke these people are.
Oh, my gosh.
I could care less.
Especially now.
I respect the institution of Congress and the three branches of government because I actually know what they are.
Yeah.
But I don't respect at all these people that are virtue signaling and are absolute children. 866-90-RED-I.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Friday Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, the latest on Israel, Iran, and the United States. Ilan Omar claims the U.S. is turning into one of the worst countries in the world. Well, from her perspective, of course.
Yeah, right.
When you look at it from her perspective, yes. Of course she's going to be angry. It isn't becoming an Islamic theocracy.
Yeah.
So, of course, it's the worst country in the world.
Right.
What would you expect?
Right.
Latest on the Senate bill, some economic numbers out there, and a whole bunch more coming up.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome, good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. You know, interesting when the president just went to Truth Social and saw where he put unconditional surrender yesterday, and it was like, okay, there really isn't a lot of wiggle room in that one. And of course, when you look at I don't know what to call the opposition to Trump on this now. Are they who's the MAGA now?
Well, I will tell you this: if President Trump sends in the B-2 with a bunker buster and attacks Fordo, even if it's limited to that mission, it's going to do serious damage to the MAGA movement. You're just going to see the fracturing of that. You and I were talking about the spending bill and how that's going to play out, and you're seeing the back and forth there. Who's MAGA, who's not MAGA? You know, keep in mind, Mike Huckabee was MAGA when MAGA wasn't cool. He said that the other day. And the ambassador to Israel.
But was Huckabee ever cool?
He didn't say he was cool. He didn't make the claim he was cool, right. To be clear. If we want to get, we don't want to get a legal note from our lawyers on this. But Whoopi, bring us our legal notes. But this is the problem or inevitability of creating a type of movement. I don't think MAGA was based on nothing. I think it was based on something real. It wasn't like hope and change. MAGA is, to me, Make America Great Again at its core, means something very serious and something very, very good about, again, getting us back on track as a nation. Of course, you have to have willing participants in that and a public that is willing to go in and make cuts. But apparently we don't even have that to a large extent on the right when it comes to the rank and file voter. But I thought that was going to, I was telling you during the pre-show meeting, I thought that was going to be really kind of, chipping away at the foundation of MAGA, because we saw it. Remember, with the continuing resolution, Chip Roy wanted to cut, and then you had, I don't know how many people that were strong Trump supporters saying Chip Roy needs to be primary. And it's now we're at the point, and this is a very serious issue. I don't want to, in my convictions when it comes to this, I don't take any of these, my positions I take very seriously because of the consequences involved in what a United States government does when it comes to acts of war. But there are clear things in history where we made decisions as a nation and it clearly saved lives. We did not fall under Nazi control, and we also did not fall under control of the Japanese and continue a war that would have cost countless lives had we not ended it the way that we did, World War II. There are plenty of mistakes that have been made in recent years, and that's what what are they called? Non-interventionists? I don't know what the labels are, but I think that's probably the best way to describe them, or as they're describing people that are interventionists, saying that, I don't see.
In popular culture right now, it's the warmongers versus the isolationists.
Exactly. I'm not.
Now, is that true?
Well,
no.
Right.
No, is that an accurate representation?
But those are the labels.
And we'll get into that in a moment here. But.
Well, but and that's the thing too. That gets into now you're crossing into liberal territory when you're calling people warmongers for pointing out a very clear risk that we have of not stopping Iran now.
Right, and I bring that up because Tulsi Gabbard a couple of weeks ago, well, actually not a couple of weeks ago, last week. Was it last week?
That she said warmongers?
Yeah, remember when she did the whole thing about, she didn't call,
it was a couple of weeks ago.
She talked about, the tragedy of
right.
of using the nuclear bombs on the atom bombs on Japan, but then she tried to relate to the warmongers of today.
Right.
She tried to make some analogy, and at that point, you have huge problems. The White House yesterday trying to say, well, there really isn't any problem, between her and Trump. Well, it's not whether there's a problem; it's whether there's a difference of opinions of where they stand on both history, world events, and how history applies to today. One of the things I saw yesterday was from, if we want to call them the isolationist or don't want, or the anti-forever wars, and I still believe this, nothing has changed my mind as of right now as to what I believe Trump wants. And what I believe Trump wants is, and I think probably it mirrors what Israel wants, is they want, the number one goal is that they destroy the nuclear weapon research ability of Iran for decades, not months. I was telling you an article that I was reading that said, well, Israel doesn't need the United States. They could cut off the electricity. They could do, they could cut off the ventilation. They could do a bunch of different stuff, and that could set them back months. They don't want months or even years.
Right.
The goal, I believe, of Trump is to set them back decades. And if you set them back decades, to me, I believe this is the philosophy that they're thinking. You set them back decades, you destroy enough and kill enough of the leadership, so whatever happens, whether there's a civil war, whether there's a new regime that comes in, or whether this regime stays, it doesn't matter. You've destroyed their ability. United States troops don't need to be in there if there's a civil war.
Right.
We're not going to send United States troops in there. If the public rises up and says, okay, we've had enough of this, and then there's a civil war, is the United States going to get involved? No, not under Trump. They're not. So if you look and say, what's the problem? I was mentioning that Sean Davis from the Federalist that's pointing out, here are all the mistakes we've made in the past. That's got nothing to do with where we are now.
Right.
I mean, it was the dumbest argument I've seen.
A lot of people brought up Iraq, in the months leading up to us going in March of 2003. George W. Bush and others sold the media on the fact that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Well, at one point he did. The question is, what happened to them? And what was the intel like, which included, by the way, back then, Democrats in the Senate, including then Democrat Senator Hillary Clinton, talking about the dangers in the fall of 2002 that Saddam Hussein presented.
Yeah, they all were in agreement. They were all in agreement on it. But in this particular case, This is simply we want to take away their ability. Trump is insane. Now, would he? Does Israel want regime change? Yes. Do I think that Donald Trump is necessarily? And I think one of the reasons they want regime change is not because they believe they'll get a better government, but the fact is, for that will be the punishment for that will be the accountability for building the nuclear weapons, which sends the message to the next administration in there or the next regime in there. Now, is it going to stop them from going forward? Probably not. But the fact is, I think they look at it and they say, doesn't matter who's in there. It's going to be bad no matter what. Mm-hmm. So we might as well hold the people accountable who have gone this far, who have been involved through their surrogates in funding the Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, who are trying to do everything to destroy Israel and to attack the United States if they got the opportunity. Mm-hmm. I believe it's that simple.
Yeah.
Get rid of Fordo, get rid of the other. I saw the other one that's a chemical plant, the 2,500 acres. Get that, do whatever you need to do. Put the sanctions on which are back on oil. Mm-hmm. You make sure that they can't make profits on that. What you do is you set them back decades, whether that's 10 years, 20 years, whatever. You solve the problem as of now, and you have no intention of having American troops get in there if there's a civil war that happens.
Right.
You're not going to get involved in it.
Because I don't believe Trump wants that.
No, I don't.
I think, in fact, if what my gut tells me, and you can scoff at it, but what my gut tells me is the biggest move he would make is sending in the B-2 to deliver and take out Fordo, and that's the biggest move I believe that he would make. And we're talking about a very short-term type of war action. I just don't see President Trump being the guy sending in troops to go in and nation rebuilding. And, the whole thing about, I don't know how many times I saw it yesterday. I wish I had $1 for every time I saw it. But it was, we won't be welcomed as heroes. This is projecting, a logic or discussion or positions from other people from 20 plus years ago on to those of us who believe something must be done about Iran. I don't pretend to have the answers. I've also never been to war, and I've certainly never been in the position of having to send other humans to war. But I do know history in big moves of when you have an enemy that clearly wants to take you out. This has been said a lot, but it bears repeating. You should believe them as they scream it over and over again, death to America. And if they've got nuclear weapons, there's only one reason a nation like that would have nuclear weapons.
Now, I tend to believe, because it's interesting when Trump said unconditional surrender, because unconditional surrender means either you give up your leadership, you give up control of the government.
Right.
Those are and so you're talking about, I know without question the Israelis want regime change, but when Trump yesterday, that was all it said, unconditional surrender.
Right.
Well, what does he mean by that? And with Trump, you have to parse words at times.
Yep.
But to me, when you say when that term is used, it means the government surrenders and is replaced.
Yes.
Because you've surrendered completely. It's not conditional surrender where, all right, we're going to surrender, but we remain in control of the government.
Right.
There's a differentiation between conditional surrender and unconditional surrender that Trump put out yesterday. Now, he hasn't explained to me yet or anybody else what he means by unconditional surrender. But if you want to extrapolate and say he wants regime change, it would fit the definition of that phrase.
Well, and on top of that, on that same day, saying they know where the Supreme Leader is, and he's safe for now. Those two combined, it's very clear. He's talking about the Supreme Leader. He's talking about leadership in Iran walking out, saying, we're giving you a chance to walk out now. That tells me that there is a mission that is imminent. And I don't see President Trump changing his mind on that. Because I think if you send in B-2s to go in and take out Fordo, then in that same mission, and again, keep in mind, this is the president who took out Soleimani. Then I think there's probably a mission, whether we do it or the Israelis do it, there is going to be a mission to take out the Supreme Leader. They do know where he is. There is nothing more sophisticated than the intelligence combined from Mossad and U.S. intelligence when it comes to that matter.
Now, again, when you get to this point, there are a lot of great unknowns. You never know what's going to happen when you get involved in something like this.
Right.
Does this mean that you allow Iran to get the bomb? That's what the question comes down to.
Right.
You allow Iran.
Right.
And who was, I forgot who was saying it again. It was brought up yesterday because this is something that they brought up. You know, the former leaders of the Soviet Union, they're not suicidal. Or they weren't suicidal.
Right.
The leadership of China, they're not suicidal. You've got a lot of people in Islamic radicalism that are suicidal. Mm-hmm. Now, what we found out a lot of times is it's not the actual leaders.
Leadership. Right. Yeah,
the
recruits.
the leaders aren't, but the philosophy is. You know, one of the things is that that in Iran, I was reading an article on it yesterday, that they really don't have bomb shelters you should go to because you should be willing to sacrifice yourself.
Right. Of course, the leaders don't believe that. They go into hiding.
Right.
But
they go.
Yeah.
They all go into hiding. But,
you should be a martyr.
Did you see how they got? Did you see how Israel actually made a phone call and convinced the military leadership to all go to the same bunker?
Yes. No, this is
unbelievable. When you
highly sophisticated.
They actually. I want to know more specifics than what I got.
Yeah.
What do you mean they made a phone call? What do you mean you impersonated someone else and all got them to be in the same place?
In the world of AI, you can
That's a great point.
You can create a lot of one thing I've talked about is forget about the private sector scams of AI. How can the governments use AI in the future? It's already happening.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF Fuel Power Max.
Surviving and thriving as an owner-operator has just as much to do with managing costs as it does with generating revenue. Like the chief financial officer of any company, you have to be concerned about rising costs, especially without increases in revenue. Trying to reduce costs, let alone make sense of them, can be a complicated task. Understanding basic principles of operating costs can save you thousands of dollars a year. A penny saved could be $1,000 earned. Saving just 1 penny per mile over 100,000 miles driven annually will deliver $1,000 to the bottom line at the end of the year. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Thank you for being here this morning. Coming up more on Iran, Israel, and the United States. But I'm sitting here thinking we only got about a minute here. But I'm sitting here thinking that it's past the point of no return. Trump can't back off now.
Yeah. No, he can't. He can't.
Because what does, if he sits there and says, okay, we made a deal with them. What does that deal look like that would be, and I could care less about what the people of the United States think. This is Trump's last term. He's not going to serve again. What I wonder is whatever he does and whatever deal he makes, all of our enemies is watching. Good God. All of our enemies are watching.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm concerned about.
Yeah.
How you do it. I think right now you have all of our enemies going, whoa. We didn't see this.
Look at the markets. The markets are kind of in a holding pattern. There hasn't been a big swing one way or the other with the markets. So I think there's a lot of, maybe shock, maybe not awe, but shock.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. I saw the Bill Mallusion post from about 6 hours ago. Tom Holman reports that only 95 illegal immigrants were encountered by Border Patrol in the last 24 hours along the entire 2,000 miles of the southern border. Holman says that's the lowest single-day total ever recorded. There were single days of 10,000 plus under Biden in 2023. You see where Texas is stopping the building of their wall?
Right, yeah.
You see where they now there's a push not to continue building a ton of the wall or wondering where this money is going for the wall when it costs a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things they're looking at is, well, if you follow the law, you don't need a wall.
Right. Well, it's something that you and I talked about back in 2016. For me, having so many friends in the Border Patrol over the years, my position is I defer to them. The boots on the ground need to tell me what they, need to tell the government, what they need from the government in terms of resources. What's going to help them do their job better? Well, it turns out directives, directives on the law. And there was some, even during Trump's first term, there was some back and forth on, okay, what are we supposed to be doing? And so there had to be some greater clarity, but nothing like during the Biden years. Biden years, it was basically telling Border Patrol agents, you're no longer an agent. You're a processor. Border processors. And processing really, because of the way that they did it, it was you're telling them to go against their training. And, of course, as we knew, essentially don't enforce the law. Well, question, where do you need a wall? Where do you need more enforcement? Where do you need more air power? Where do you need horses are a big deal? Where do you need any of that? Let the Border Patrol agents tell you. Let the Border Patrol tell you what they need. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, when it becomes a political fight one way or the other, at the end of it, those resources have to be used, and they have to be, again, if we should be spending money on this. It's national defense, after all, the number one role of the federal government. We should be listening to those doing the job.
Since we're talking illegal immigration and the border, let's go to The View from yesterday.
Okay, good.
Arnold was on The View. Let's see where this went.
All right.
So, if you are an immigrant, you're an immigrant in this country. Yeah. Did you have a visceral reaction to what they're doing, what ICE is doing, when you see the videos of it?
Well, I tell you, you said that the immigrant, I'm so proud and happy that I was impressed by the American people like that. I mean, imagine I came over here with the age of 21, with absolutely nothing. And then to create a career like that. I mean, in no other country in the world could you do that? Every single thing, if it's my bodybuilding career, if it's my acting career, becoming governor, the beautiful family that I've created, all of this is because of America.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm so happy to see firsthand that this is the greatest country in the world, and this is the land of opportunity. And I think because I'm such a proud American and a proud immigrant that came to America, I was asked to do, on July 4th, a big speech, the keynote speech at Mount Vernon, where George Washington was laid to rest, and where he lived and all that, to celebrate the 250th anniversary of America, the existence of America. And I will be doing the speech there. They asked me because I'm an immigrant, and there will be 7,000 some people there, and there will be people that will be sworn in and will become citizens that day.
That's great.
So it's really a great celebration. And this is what this is all about, is to celebrate people becoming Americans and coming to America and all that. And so I just think the world of the great kind of history that we have with immigrants in America. But the key thing also is at the same time that we got to do things legal. That is the important thing, you know. So you got to do things legal, and those people that are doing illegal things in America and that are foreigners, they are not smart. Because when you come to America, you're a guest, and you have to behave like a guest. Like when I go to someone's house and I'm a guest, then I will do everything I can, keep things clean, and to make my bed and to do everything that is the right thing to do, rather than committing a crime or being abusive or something like that. So that doesn't really work in this country. So I think the important thing is when you become an immigrant, to think about, okay, I go to America because I want to use America for the great opportunities that America has in education, in jobs, creating a family, all of those kind of things. Then you have to think about, okay, if I get all of those things from America, then I have to give something back. You have a responsibility as an immigrant to give back to America and to pay back to America and to go and do something for your community for no money whatsoever. Give something back to after-school programs, Special Olympics, or whatever it is. Make this country a better.
Okay, now that a lot of you had a lot of conservatives post that yesterday, and he's talked about again, you have to do it legal, well, and so he's not even talking about what the issue is. The issue is not whether you're a legal immigrant to the United States.
No.
It's whether because right now the issue is illegal immigrant criminals.
Yeah.
And so he kept saying immigrant, not illegal immigrant. And so I don't know when he was saying you have to do things legal, if he meant if you're a legal immigrant here, you shouldn't come over here and break the law. Or if you're an illegal immigrant, you shouldn't be here. They actually never had that discussion. It's like, it drives you crazy.
Well,
because
listen to me. If you're going to be in someone's house, then
make your bed.
You have the maid make your bed if they have a maid. You have to give some attention to the maid. If you have a Swiffer and the maid doesn't have a Swiffer, you give her your Swiffer. That's what you do because you're a guest in the house. And if the maid is a guest in your house, you treat her like a guest and give her some special attention.
But I found that interesting because that audio cuts all over the place, and it's like, see, he said legal, and he did say legal, but I don't think he was talking even about illegal immigrants. I think he just decided to change the topic and talk about how proud he is to be a legal immigrant to the United States, which is not the topic of discussion. That's not the debate going on in the United States.
I just want to talk about my new movie.
Oh, you had later on, it was Joy Behar or whatever.
Yeah.
Who came out and just said, I forgot what she, what did she, I forgot what it was. It just popped out of my mind. But but they were in essence, because the protests are not about legal immigration,
Right.
And I know what it was. Again, she was talking about illegal
The ice raids.
that the ICE raids are taking out people with that are here legally.
Right.
And that's not true.
Right.
So
was
remember,
it her, or did she say that part, or was it Whoopi that said they're
Okay, maybe it was Whoopi.
they're deporting people who have
Visas. Yeah. No, they're not.
Not if you have a legal visa, they're not. If your visa has expired, they are.
Yeah.
This is where they get away with blurring the lines, or they think they're getting away with blurring the lines. You're lying. It's a flat-out lie. Then they're deporting babies and putting them on planes. Nobody wants babies on planes.
Okay, let me get to. I've got another audio cut. I'm just going to go with this from right here at this point.
All right, good.
Because I think this is one where.
Okay.
I'm trying to think here. Is this where? Yeah, I think this is where Whoopi.
I think she comes in at the end.
Let's hear. Here we go.
Or whatever it is, make this country a better place.
Arnold, don't forget, there's 90% of the people who come here are trying to do the right thing.
They're less likely to commit crimes.
And a lot of what's happening right now is people are getting snatched who shouldn't be snatched out of the country. People who have visas, people who have all those things. So
that's a lie.
Wrong. That's false.
Yeah. And so they try to conflate all the time legal immigration and illegal immigration and make it all together.
Well, and they've been getting away with that. And, of course, during a liberal administration, get away with that, especially a liberal administration like Joe Biden, who opened the borders. Then you get away with that. They believe they had won that forever, that you get to come here, even if your visa's expired, you get to stay here. No, you don't.
No, you don't. No.
And if you're talking about somebody who comes here on a student visa and supports the enemy, you also don't get to stay.
And think about it. When you have Trump, who is enforcing federal law that was passed in our constitutional republic as it's supposed to be from the elected representatives in Congress who passed a series of laws, and Trump is saying, these are the laws, let's go for it.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, there's always going to be a fight in the courts about it, that we all know the laws that Trump is following is the law passed by Congress, and because he's trying to enforce the laws passed by Congress, well, then he's a king and an authoritarian.
Right.
But the president who said, I'm not going to pay attention to what the elected representatives of the people of the United States voted for,
is not a king.
Yes.
Yeah, he gets to tell, in fact, enforcement to ignore the law.
Exactly.
And he's not a king.
Who is closer to a king? That's why I said I was laughing over the weekend, because it just made, even on something like that they all thought was great. We got it. It's like you can't even connect. You can't even connect the dots here. Nobody can get you. You saw it on social media. Yeah, it's really dumb, the whole king thing. But I gotta jump on it because everybody else is. Because I really don't have a critical thinking mind. So why should I expect my party to be critical thinking in any manner or form?
Yeah, right.
That's where they seem to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, say it was Whoopi who made up the lie.
Yeah.
That's not true. This whole thing is about illegal immigrant criminals.
Yep. Flat out. And by the way,
and the Democratic Party, I don't think the people, now looking at that public policy poll from California, where 58% don't believe that illegal immigrants, not illegal immigrants that have committed other crimes, but they don't believe illegal immigrants should be able to collect Medicaid.
Right.
58%, 58 to 41.
Right.
You would think that was Texas or something. That's California.
Right.
Yet they put the same idiots in, Adam Schiff, Senator Padilla, who's crying, I can't disrupt an official proceeding of a government official. I can't scream in their face.
You better hope you're not a victim like I'm a victim.
I'm a victim because I can't go anywhere, anytime, and be heard. And my feelings are hurt. And I don't understand why men won't vote for Democrats.
What will my boys think? I'll tell you what they'll think. They'll think that they should have been raised by a man.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour. I don't even know what time it is. We will have the latest from Iran, Israel, and the United States, and really not much of. There really are no negotiations going on. I mean, it's
right now. It appears Iran is on its knees. It's being widely reported that it's almost a complete internet blackout in Iran. So the question would be, if you've taken out their ability to deliver missiles, and it was also announced yesterday that essentially Israel and, of course, the U.S. control the airspace in Iran. If that is still the case, then Iran is pretty much done, which I think probably is why the president said what he said. You know, we want a complete surrender. We'll talk more about that coming up.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
all across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here. Just hitting a couple of other things. I was just going through a bunch of stuff, looking at the Senate tax bill, and Wall Street Journal, 2 cheers for the Senate tax bill. The Finance Committee draft improves on the House by making business expensing permanent and reining in more Medicaid abuses. But you know what they don't do? And this is the problem that you get, is the fact that when it comes to the Green New Deal, the subsidies for wind and solar, they extend them longer.
Wow. Okay. Good.
Than the House bill does. If you can't get rid of that of Republicans,
no, it's over.
You can rein it. You can rein in Medicaid a little bit. You can do other. You can always give people tax cuts. I mean, and we're for that. But the fact is, if you're not going to cut spending, we're still in the same place where we are right now.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, I mean, it's reminiscent of 2017, after promising in 2016 to do away with all of Obamacare. In 2017, basically the voter base was telling them, no, just do away with the part that we pay, how we pay for it. So if you think about this, all right, we'll implement tax cuts, but we're still going to spend more. Well, wait a minute. That doesn't make sense. Well, again, they're going to do the Laffer curve on this. But quite frankly, it wouldn't matter. They can do all the Laffer curve math they want to on paper. But when you look at the bill overall, they're spending more. And you can't score it with these, these numbers that are overly optimistic about the future. There's no way to score it. I've always thought, well, score it at, 0 or at least below average scenario in terms of GDP growth, what expected revenue might be, and everything else. Maybe not even worst case scenario. That's how I would plan as an individual. But, this is other people's money. We don't care about other people's money. And this is the ridiculous place we've gotten to. There are a handful of us fiscal conservatives left. Just a handful. We don't have great representation on Capitol Hill, even in the Republican Party.
Some of the things that would happen, remember the user payments, the $600 reporting requirement.
Oh yeah.
That's now that would be $20,000 under the Senate. They have limited some of the House's carve-outs for tips. The deduction limit from the Senate bill would be $25,000, overtime $12,500. Seniors would get a special $6,000 deduction versus $4,000 under the House bill. Now that's really good. Where seniors would get a special $6,000 deduction versus $4,000 under the House bill. That's totally and completely solid.
But the bill defines a senior as person 80 or older.
It sucks then.
We need to move that to 59 and a half or older.
And the only reason I read that was so I could throw in the $6,000 for seniors.
Yeah.
The biggest Senate backslide is on the Inflation Reduction Act's green energy tax credits. The House bill ends those credits for solar and wind projects not currently under construction, but the Senate Finance doesn't fully phase them out until 2028. For 30 years, Congress has extended the credits when they get close to lapsing. If you can't do that, if the Republicans in the Senate can't stop the ridiculous subsidies for solar and wind, you will never get the budget under control, ever.
Yeah, you won't.
I don't think they care.
No,
I don't think they care.
No, because what do you hear? Well, these projects are helping locally and blah, 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 blah. We don't like messy. Eventually, they all turn into John Boehner. They may not smoke 200 packs a day, but they turn into John Boehner. Politically. I'm exaggerating. He smokes 300 packs a day. It's, again, until we as a public, at least as a party, I'm not a registered Republican, but I do vote for the Republicans. They're giving me fewer reasons to do so. By comparison, they're still, not so bat soup crazy. But there are things where they're just not conservative anymore because the rank and file voter, Republican voter, most of them don't put the pressure on their elected representatives. We're a smaller group by the day.
Again, though, I mean, even reading that, it doesn't mean anything because we have no idea what it will be by the middle of next week.
I think it'll be fatter by the end of next week. By the time it gets to the president's desk.
That was our prediction was it will only grow fatter.
Yeah.
Because since Republicans don't care anymore about the debt.
Right.
There's no reason not to make it bigger.
Right.
There'd be more flack if you didn't get all the tax cuts, all the subsidies, all the carve-outs. There's less if you simply say, well, we've risen the debt. So the deficit's going to be $22.5 trillion a year.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody.
Those numbers are meaningless to the American public, whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But when you see that, right, that's the only thing I got out of it was, well, if they want to give out the green subsidies, it's like you're never going to get you're never going to get anything under control.
No, you're not. I mean,
So
again, but because it makes me wonder, to take that thought even further, how far are we really from getting a bipartisan Green New Deal? Bipartisan Green New Deal.
I don't think close. Not under the Trump administration.
But I see the pathway. No, not under Trump.
Not under Trump.
No.
I absolutely.
Yeah.
In the future, yes.
We're on the road.
Yeah.
So, it's again the over and over again the GOP moving further and further left. Pretty soon they'll be protesting in L.A. Maybe not pretty soon, but you know what I'm saying. Relatively soon.
They should just say $6,000 extra deduction for seniors, make that permanent, and then move on.
They should say for 59 and a half and older. I think this is fair.
No. 65 and older.
We don't want to pay. I'm going to go full Armageddon. We don't want to pay the movie. We don't want to pay taxes. We have some parking tickets we need taken care of. And we want the JFK files released. Remember that?
And what really happened to Epstein?
Exactly.
We've got the folders right here.
We
got the folders right here. Look at the folders. We got the folders. What's in the folders?
Yeah.
Nothing you haven't known about already for a long time.
Nothing we can show you.
Did you see that Governor Abbott signed the another reduction in property taxes, which has to go to the voter, though, November.
Right. It's about getting it on the ballot, which I think is going to happen.
I wonder if that will pass. Now, is it retroactive for this year?
I want it to be retroactive to the age of 30.
Because there's more senior stuff in there, too.
Yeah. No, well, because
this will
have a high turnout of older voters in a non-presidential election year. So I think it will pass. You do. It's a true story.
Well, I know that because I'll be voting.
Right, exactly. you're going to get in line now for early voting.
Did you know that this will mean that I'm trying to think of what it will go down to, because I was looking at if I fit in with the average or even the average senior, I'll almost be my property tax amount that I pay will be close to like 45 to 50%. What it was a few years ago.
I think, I don't know that this will go anywhere politically, but my take on it is, what I would propose is that in our great state of Texas, that we pay people, again, 59 and a half. It's an arbitrary age number. And don't ask questions. And it's rude to ask people how old they are. I just want to remind people of that. That you should get paid for living in any abode. House, RV, apartment, car. That you should get paid by the state for being you. Because here's the thing, too. Think about how helpful you are and can be to young people.
The U tax.
It's the senior hero rebate. Now that you've lived to the age of being a hero and telling great stories and also helping them with advice.
Yes.
I carry WD-40 around in my pocket.
Get off my lawn.
Off my lawn.
Always good advice.
Here's how you get into a new car with a coat hanger. Those things. Assuming it's your car. Those kind of things. You don't need all those gadgets and whatnot. Your phone's not that smart. This is advice that comes with experience. And I think we should get paid by the state for just existing, being part of the communities, being the heroes, the true heroes of the communities. Look, I know first responders want to say they're heroes, but let's be clear. Nurses, doctors, come on. It's us old people. We're the ones getting things done. I'm here in a few hours. I'm going to mow my own lawn. I'm going to sweat a lot.
I'm not going to. Mine will be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Will be Thursday.
Yeah. We got a good wind brewing up later this morning.
I know.
I
know something? I
got to do it.
I may do it this. You're right.
Yeah.
I think the time to do it because like 15, 17 mile an hour winds.
Yep.
And the best thing about that is I don't have to clean up as many clippings. That's
Exactly.
why you want to do it.
Exactly.
It's got nothing to do with the wind. Evaporating the moisture from my skin and cooling me off.
Well,
it makes it so I have less work. I like doing the lawn when there's like a 25 mile an hour wind.
Man, yeah.
You don't have to do anything.
Right.
Just run it over the lawn once.
Exactly.
Even if there's extra clippings on the lawn, it just blows it right off.
Whoosh. Yep.
Right onto my neighbor's yard.
Well, that's free nitrogen for your neighbor's lawn, the way I look at it. See, this is why the state should be paying us. These are things we think of when we're old.
Yeah, we're old people.
Young people aren't thinking of this.
Yeah, everybody gets our wisdom every single day. And what's wisdom?
That comes with a price.
What is wisdom? The fact of what we have learned from failing so many times in our lives.
Look, I still have 2 opposable thumbs. That's a miracle. That's a miracle. And people should pay for it.
I've also got to put more salt in my pool tomorrow. All the rain has taken the salt.
Yeah.
By the way, I have a saltwater pool, so people always ask, what's a saltwater pool? 1/7 of the salt that's in the ocean.
All right.
And the salt is what makes the chlorine. It runs through a chlorine generator. The electrolysis separates the sodium from the chloride.
All right. No sharks in it, though.
No sharks in my pool.
Right.
No. I had one snake. The ducks have abandoned me. The ducks are all gone. No more ducks.
Springtime's over. Yeah, we're into this week, actually. Oh, my gosh. Here in a couple of days, the first day of summer. You know what today is? My oldest grandchild turns 20 today. That's insane. That's insane. That means, less than a month, 20 years together on the air, you and I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next month.
Yep. That's crazy. Wow. Yeah.
What are we, the 18th?
I need a nap now.
Wow, less than a month.
Right. Yep.
We're going to,
Yep.
does anybody care? I mean, besides us?
Nah.
We're going to have cake or anything?
Nah, probably not.
No, I'll bring in the donuts.
All right, we'll have donuts.
Bring in some donuts.
All right, that'll be good. That'll be good.
I really don't care much about it.
Yeah.
It's only 20 years with you. I mean, how much is that to celebrate?
Wow.
I've spent 20 years with Eric.
Right.
Celebrate.
This is why the state should be paying us.
No matter what I say.
We're both being punished.
Whatever I say, no matter what I say, no matter what topic it's on, you're going to find a way to get a tax break out of it.
Yes. It's not a tax break. I want to get paid.
Oh, tax credit.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
Tax credit.
Full on. I want to check. Eric's subsidy.
866-98 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome in. Good morning. You see the controversy about the Trump phone already? Or they
you said it's going to be made in China. Is that what?
Well, Trump said, the spokesperson said it's going to be, for the president, said it's going to be made in the United States.
Okay.
Trump's son said yesterday, well, eventually all of them will be made in the United States. If they start this in August, there is no company in the United States to do it. So if they start this by the date they're talking about, August, having the Trump phone out there, all of them will come from Chinese manufacturers. Especially for the price of $499. Impossible. Unless you're going to lose money on it. If you would manufacture it in the United States, it's impossible to get it $499.
Is it possible to make child labor great again?
Just say if we had child labor.
Listen,
It'd be
these
interesting.
3-year-olds need to quit crying and get a job.
I haven't seen, because that was you put it in Google, and every single story you see says can't be made in the United States by August.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in 5 years you could make it in the United States if that was what your focus was, but you're not going to sell it for $499. And they went through, Wall Street Journal, in fact, went through every single spec and what that is and where it's made.
He was speaking to Eric Trump, was talking with Benny Johnson, and he said, quote, eventually all the phones can be built in the U.S.
Right.
Hmm.
But there's no way a phone that was designed from scratch, and there's that this phone was designed from scratch by them, and there's no way it's going to be assembled in the U.S. or completely manufactured in the United States. We know part of it is because the iPhone, as we've talked about before, you go back way back, you look at it, they're American manufacturers that make components for it. But going back to the whole iPhone of, when you followed the track of how an iPhone was made, there's, multiple companies that have, that put in to make an iPhone or any phone. And there were manufacturers inside the United States. But that was a story. And I have not heard the president probably won't comment on it because he can't.
Right.
But his sons will. But they already did say eventually it will be made.
Yeah. Right.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, so as we talk about the situation in Iran, here's a debate going on right now, because the debate's going on, I really haven't heard any Democrats talk about. It seems like the entire narrative on social media and even the written word, everything is in the disagreement from Republicans, MAGA versus MAGA. But the Democrats aren't screaming about the president.
No.
Yesterday.
No.
You don't hear any of it.
No.
I figured when he said unconditional surrender, the Democrats would go crazy.
Oh, yeah.
They've been pretty quiet. But here's a debate going on right now. This is Katie Pavlich on with some of the reporters and anchors of Fox yesterday. Here we go.
Strike on enemy territory is a violation of sovereignty. We would consider it a declaration of war here at home. We can only anticipate the Iranians seeing it the same way. Well, that's why you're seeing the president moving assets into the Middle East to protect U.S. military bases and interests there. But he has made it very clear he wants to make sure that the ground is exactly laid the way it needs to be for this strike, if he were to take it, to be successful. The president isn't going to get into anything that he believes is going to embroil the United States in a long, protracted war. That is not his mantra. That is not his doctrine. He's made it very clear what his mission is. And he's made it clear that he wants the Israelis to do this on their behalf, to take care of what they think they need to do. However, again, back to the message of, he's said consistently and continues to say, it is not peace to allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. But at the same time, no president goes into a foreign war with the expectation it's going to carry on for 20 years. I mean, President Bush didn't do that. President Obama didn't do that when he was executing the nobody thought, nobody in their right mind, president or no president, would sign up for that.
But the difference is that those wars started very differently than this reaction to Iran potentially having 10 nuclear weapons in 3 weeks would be starting. There is zero talk of any kind of boots on the ground action when it comes to this potential decision that the president is going to make, and he may not make it. But we're talking about airstrikes in the airspace. We're not talking about sending in thousands of troops in a way that would require them being there for longer than even a couple of days.
But even so, he's getting a lot of pushback from so-called MAGA individuals. Marjorie Taylor Greene saying anyone slobbering for the U.S. to become fully involved in the Israel
strike.
That goes back to 2 days ago. We already brought that up to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Again, though, it's when you look at this, I thought the dumbest, the dumbest take was coming from a number of. In fact, I think Tucker Carlson brought it up with Ted Cruz. It's the dumbest take there has been by, and I don't know what to call the two sides, as I've said before, warmongers, MAGA warmongers versus MAGA isolationists. That wouldn't be entirely accurate, but I'm just
right. If we're gonna have to put the social media version of a title on it,
exactly, the social media version of it, the over the top rhetoric,
the label,
But I think it was a dumb take. Because you saw Ted Cruz didn't know that Iran had 90 million people. They got 90 million people. That's one of the reasons. The amount of people they have means nothing.
Right.
The number of people don't mean anything if you went to war unless Iran had the ability to create an army of 90 million people.
Right.
Which they don't.
Right.
So when I saw that yesterday, I went, my God, that is... You can't come up with something better than that. You're using that and then mocking Ted Cruz because he didn't know the population of Iran as a key factor in why the president shouldn't keep Iran from having a nuclear weapon.
Right.
It's the ability to create a huge army and infantry. What, is it going to be an infantry that's going to be going across Iran and into Iraq, or what's the point that you're trying to make?
Look, I trust, based on his moves as commander-in-chief so far, both in his first term and his current term, I trust that this president is going to, if he decides to go in, which I think he's already made that decision. I could be wrong. And I believe that decision is to go in and take out the Fordo plant. I believe that if that is the case, it's going to be very limited. It's going to be a very clear and concise mission and get out. And I don't believe we're going to be sending any troops there. I don't believe this president has any intent on sending any troops there and going in like we went into Iraq, like we went into eventually Afghanistan. You know, people forget in Afghanistan, at first it was a CIA mission. The CIA was actually trying to get more boots on the ground as they had the Taliban on the run and had Osama bin Laden, they believe, on the run. But eventually it became, of course, boots on the ground mission. And Iraq was, and I think a lot of people in this argument, this back and forth about Iran, are pointing to Iraq, because they're using, we were wrong about weapons of mass destruction. And so, and by the way, that was a wide consensus on intel that came from a number of international sources on the intel back then with Saddam Hussein. We don't need to get into the debate on that, but people kind of forget. Did it end up being the case when we finally got there? No, they weren't there. Those weapons weren't there. Should there have been a clearer mission, an off-ramp, an exit strategy, and all this? Again, hindsight is always 20/20. And yes, we should learn from it, but we should also learn from other actions of war and threats against the U.S. Because Iran isn't nothing. We're not looking at a Saddam Hussein. We're looking at a regime that if they do have nuclear weapons, they will, and it won't be long, they will use them on Americans likely in that region. They will use them on Israel. How in the world, and that debate was going on. Well, there was, there's in the what Trump said on the gaggle that came out about a little over 24 hours ago when he was coming back from G7 on Air Force One. There was a press gaggle, and he was asked about Tulsi Gabbard's testimony in March, and he said, "I don't care what she said. They have the weapons. We know this, and they have the weapons." Basically what he was saying, what I took from that was, it's irrelevant what she said in March, because we don't believe, by the way, that was accurate in March.
Right.
But we're here now, and we have the intel. They have the weapons, because this is where the comparison to Iraq comes in. Well, they said that about Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. So I don't know. Is it that we have to have some kind of proof from that there are the weapons? Do we need to wait for them to use them? How long? How much of a rope?
Well, but again,
do we give Iran to hang us?
You judge it. You judge each instance by
separately.
Separately to do that. And I saw that a lot yesterday. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought the other argument, again, they have 90 million people. Ted Cruz said, no, we're going to go into a country that has 90 million. It doesn't matter whether you have 90 million people. That's not even relevant to the discussion of whether you should go in or not. I think some of the things that may be relevant is, once what do you mean, as we stated earlier, when you say unconditional surrender, what does that mean? You say you don't want to kill the Ayatollah, but do you want him out of power? Mm-hmm. Is that what unconditional surrender means? What is the goal? Is the goal, would you negotiate them if they unconditionally surrendered? Does that mean that Israel or the United Nations or should be over new elections? Does that mean just another Ayatollah takes over? When you say unconditional surrender, what would happen after that? Those are the kind of questions I think that I would want to ask the president and get answered. Because when you say that, when you just put it out, unconditional surrender, I don't know what that means.
Right.
I know that that Israel wants again regime change. Netanyahu made it clear he wants a democracy there. He believes that 80% of the people, as he said. I don't know how he knows that. I don't know who's doing the polling in Iran. But he says 80% of the people hate the regime, and I'm sure a lot of them do. I know from the people that I know from Iran that they do. Mm-hmm. They do hate the regime there. Mm-hmm. But does that transfer into the fact that if you make a deal with them, that the people have free elections? How do you get to that point? Does it mean that if you go in and you take out the nuclear site, what happens then? Are we done? Do we move back? Do you wish to get rid of the regime? If they attack our sites, then do you go after the Ayatollah? And if you go after the Ayatollah and you kill more members of the government, is it your hope, because you have no idea what's going to happen, is it your hope then that there would be a revolution and then you just back off?
Right.
Or, like I say, don't they may not care who comes into power next, as long as they deplete the ability of Iran to have nuclear weapons for 25 to 30 years.
Yeah, right.
Because they'd have to start all over again.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and so that's the whole point.
You're trying to break the will of, I guess, future leadership. If there's going to be any thought given to redevelopment of nuclear weapons, then you have them reconsidering. Or what you hope for, of course, ultimately, is a completely different mindset of, hey, we want to trade while we don't want to give up everything in terms of our culture. we don't want to be the state sponsors of terrorism, known as a great state sponsor of terrorism across the world. Because we have to keep in mind, too, how does anyone believe October 7th happened? October 7th happened. Hezbollah and Hamas, funded by Iran.
Right.
Thinking that, well, you know, they're this comparison to Iraq, as if Iran is, no, they're just developing weapons. Actually, somebody had to write it in an article yesterday. This isn't about developing nuclear power. This is about developing nuclear weapons.
Right.
Well, they have the right to have nuclear power. Nobody's making that argument.
Was somebody making that argument?
No, someone actually had to write in an article yesterday, and I'll see if I can find the article going, this is nuts that anybody even has to explain that. But that's where we've gotten to, comparing this whole thing to Iraq. Yeah, we've made mistakes before. I don't want to make the mistake of underestimating Iran's ability.
No, like I said, the questions would be what happens after you drop it.
Yep. And all legitimate, I asked that question earlier. What, from there, what?
And what are the projections that I'm sure the Pentagon's already made?
Yeah.
What do they expect?
Right.
What do they view as the options after you drop that bomb?
Exactly.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So that would be the questions that I would ask. I just saw something that said, well, Trump doesn't want regime change. Well, I don't know what unconditional surrender means. Because unconditional surrender implies regime change.
Yeah.
You've got to surrender, which means you're not in power. We're in charge of your country now.
Right.
And I know that's not what the president wants. Well, then I know that's not the case. The president does not want to be in charge of installing a government or being involved in the nation building. So then what does unconditional surrender mean?
Right.
What's your definition of that? He hasn't explained it yet. That would be a question I would have.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks so much for being here, as always. Let me just check. I haven't checked out futures, the stock market futures in a while here.
Yeah, I checked them earlier. Again, it hasn't been a lot of movement over the past couple of days. Hasn't been huge swings like an international. Dow futures are up. NASDAQ futures are up.
Yep. S&P is up. Oil is down.
Yeah,
almost a 0.5%.
But it's at 74.54 right now. Right. So, which is up over the past couple of days. But again, still not.
Yeah, but it was up like at 1.5% yesterday. So it's come back down again.
Yeah, during the intraday trading,
right?
It was at 80. No, actually, no, I'm sorry. That went back too far. It actually, where it is right now, is up. That's the highest we've been since.
Okay, it is the
April.
highest it's been. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's down a little bit from where it was, but it's in the 74.5 range is the highest it's been in recent days. That spike started, of course, actually a couple of weeks ago.
But you think about it,
to slowly go up.
It's still, let me see, in January it was 80.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We closed at 80. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so.
Almost 81.
So there hasn't been this massive swing impact on the markets or oil that you would expect from, think about this, potentially a war with Iran. So then we have to take that and say, okay, but is this really going to be a war with Iran? Well, it appears that Iran really is crippled here now, at least at this moment. Internet, there's a wide outage. The majority, basically, of Iran has no internet at the moment. But also the ability to retaliate is extremely limited. And Israel pretty much has that handled. The question would be, again, their nuclear weapons ability and the ability to deliver those nuclear weapons. So Fordo is the plant that's been talked about. That is the big one. It is deep underground, requires a massive bunker buster, and that bunker buster requires a B-2 to deliver it. Or them. I don't know if could it be multiple bunker busters. I don't know what the plan would be. Wall Street Journal actually had a piece on that yesterday. The 30,000-pound massive ordnance penetrator is considered by analysts to be the best chance of getting through to deeply buried targets, that being the Fordo facility there in Iran. But it requires a B-2 to deliver it, and Israel does not have that B-2. So then it's believed that the president that's the consideration here. Do we deliver that massive 30,000-pound bomb or two, or whatever it would take to destroy Fordo? Here's what I think the president, this particular president especially, is asking, or any good president I think would, and that is, okay, is this MOP, as they call it, this massive bomb, is it enough? Is it going to do the trick, and exactly where do we put it? This is where you bring Tom Cruise in the room, and he tells you exactly where it is and how you have to go in to deliver that bomb. And when you are in that situation room, then, the president's probably asking, yeah, all right, we send it there. Precision really isn't a concern. It's just that we need to know that wherever that delivery point is going to be, that target is the right place to hit in order to do the job. And is it going to be multiple hits? Those kind of things.
Well,
but
go ahead.
But then, beyond that, it is, I don't believe the president has any intention of committing beyond that unless there was a response by Iran in targeting American interests in that region. And we do have American bases and other American interests in that region, and that would be basically a defensive posturing. I don't believe it's a wide-scale, at this point, wide-scale operation. It would be, I think the intent is to take out Fordo, and I think you then, the Israelis, it's been said, want to take out the supreme leader. They know where he is. Trump actually sent out the message yesterday. We know exactly where he is, and he's safe for now. So the question is, then you let Israel take out the supreme leader if that's the way it's going to be done. He put out the message yesterday, we want a full and complete surrender, which basically is him saying to the supreme leader and leadership, we want you to surrender. We want leadership to surrender. And then what? I mean, I don't know what it looks like beyond that point, but I think that's where the game plan is now, or if there is a game plan coming together, that's the intention. I don't think it's going to be beyond that. And I think the market is a kind of a wait-and-see approach, but also there's not a lot of fear driving the markets right now in terms of a massive wide scale. Because then the question would be, okay, other countries in that region that are not friendly to Israel necessarily, what is their position going to be if the U.S. goes in and delivers this massive bunker buster and takes out the Fordo plant? Is there any communication with the leadership in those countries? I don't think Trump needs the blessing necessarily, but certainly there's going to be airspace you're going to have to fly over in order to get there. And that would be the question. How is it going to be delivered? When is it going to be done? And ultimately, is it going to be done at all?
Over the next couple of days, I mean, we heard the Israeli ambassador say they've got something coming up that will make the whole beeper.
Yeah.
The whole beeper operation seem like nothing. I'm paraphrasing here. He didn't say those exact words, but that was his intention. That does not at all align with a bunker buster being used by the United States, who would have to deliver it. And so you wonder what that means at that point.
Here's his quote, by the way. This is the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Quote, "When the dust settles, you're going to see some surprises Thursday night and Friday that will make the beeper operation almost seem simple."
So with that, and again, the president in the Situation Room yesterday, as they're showing him the possibilities of things that they're going to do, which has to be more than just a bunker buster, because you're extrapolating out, or you're projecting out, what are we going to do once we drop, the bunker buster? Once we destroy it, what might Iran's pushback be? If Iran, here's the point here, if Iran attacks U.S. interests, whether it's U.S. ships, whatever, at that point, does the United States tell Israel, take out the Ayatollah?
Right.
Those are questions that I
Right.
have.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, when you see that this is just an hour old, this story, U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, given the security situation and in compliance with the Israel Home Front Command guidance, the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem will be closed Wednesday, June 18th through Friday, June 20th. This includes the consular sections in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. There will be no passport. Hang on one second here. There will be no passport, emergency, or regular or consular report of birth abroad services. We have no announcement about assisting private U.S. citizens to depart at this time. The Department of State is always planning for contingencies to assist with private U.S. citizens' departures from crisis areas. We will alert the U.S. citizen community if there is additional information to share regarding departure options. Now, I look at this and saying, why didn't you do it yesterday? Why didn't you evacuate the day before? Why is it through Friday?
Yeah, when I saw that earlier, I wondered, because it sounds like the same timeline that the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. put into play.
Right. And
Thursday night into Friday.
Seems to be the timeline also of when the United States, may be involved in dropping the bunker buster missile.
Right. Which, if we're coordinating, and clearly we are, with Israel, then it is going to be a very precise and also sophisticated attack, even though we seem to be getting a heads up on it.
Now, meanwhile, the IDF, this from 2 hours ago, says it struck key elements of Iran's nuclear weapons program in the Tehran area. In a Wednesday morning update, The IDF said it struck a centrifuge production site and multiple weapon manufacturing facilities in the Tehran area. The IDF says the sites were key elements of Iran's nuclear weapons and missile programs. The organization said over 50 Israeli Air Force fighter jets targeted several sites, including a facility used to enrich uranium, sites manufacturing parts for surface-to-air missiles, surface-to-surface missiles, and a facility for surface-to-air missile components used to target aircraft. These strikes directly degrade Iran's ability to threaten Israel and the region, the IDF said. Also, you had the Iranian supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, shared some seemingly threatening messaging on his social media accounts on Tuesday night, including a post reading, "The battle begins," alongside an image of fireballs raining down on the ancient city. The battle begins, he wrote on X. Iran's supreme leader, in a post on a separate X post in English, wrote, "We must give a strong response to the terrorist Zionist regime. We will show the Zionists no mercy." So as we wait here, something looks like it's going to happen in the next couple of days. Otherwise, we would not be stopping the services of the U.S. embassies in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. That wouldn't be happening. They're doing it because they expect some type of possible response that would target American interest. Right. And so I don't know if they believe that with what they're going to do over the next 48 hours will make it so those targets will not be as susceptible as before. But as to what the Israeli ambassador said, you view that as we're going to take out a ton of people. That's how I took that.
Yeah.
We're going to kill people that are involved, more people that are involved in the Iranian military.
Yeah. And
scientists, anybody involved in the production of it, or they may be taking out different leaders. You know what the plan is, how it's different from the beepers, what will they do? I don't know. You know, you and I talked about earlier, reading the story on how we killed all of those senior leadership in the military of Iran. That was unbelievable. Somehow they made a phone call.
Yeah, and got them all to the same bunker.
Mossad made a phone call.
Yeah.
Apparently impersonating someone else, whether they're using AI, who knows? They all went to the particular location, and boom.
Yeah.
But Israel set it up completely. If you're right now, if you're the supreme leader, if you're in the military, you don't know who to talk to, what to do. You don't know who's on your side, which is exactly what you want if you're Israel, by the way, or the United States.
Yeah.
And you continually throw disinformation at them where they're running around like mice with their heads cut off.
Yeah. Well, when the U.S. Embassy or when the State Department put this notice out about the U.S. Embassy in Israel being closed yesterday afternoon, they put this out yesterday afternoon. When they announced that, it was very clear with everything said yesterday and the fact that they're closing it, the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. mentioning in his comments about whatever dust settling between Thursday night and Friday. And the embassy is going to be closed through Friday. It means that the timeline seems to be very clear. Thursday and Friday is going to be a very busy time, unless something huge changes.
866-90-RED-I.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And then you have the story that came out from the New York Times. New York Times reporting that the Iranian military is planning possible attacks against American forces if the U.S. joins Israel as it continues to launch strikes against the Islamic Republic. Citing American officials, the New York Times did. Doesn't mean that's credible, though. As an example, if the U.S. strikes Fordo, a key Iranian nuclear facility, Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen could attack ships in the Red Sea, as they have done since October 7th. The U.S. has thousands of troops deployed in the region. Meanwhile, Iran has missile bases within range of some of the American forces out there. And so you say to yourself, okay, what's a contingency if they strike back? If you're going to do this, and it looks like they are, if you're going to do this, and how will you respond? The other question would be trying to prevent. How do you get regime change that Israel wants, and that probably the administration wouldn't mind,
right?
As long as they weren't tied directly to it,
right?
How might that affect the Iranian people, and what is the possibility if you extrapolate? If we do this, what happens here? If we do this, what happens here? What would be the odds of a humanitarian crisis like Gaza?
Yeah.
Zero?
Right.
Because it's a completely different situation.
Right.
And Iran is a more advanced society when it comes to that particular point. And if you don't destroy all the major infrastructure, can Iran easily bounce back if there's a regime change, no matter what that regime change might be?
Right.
That would be the question.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here, as always. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm trying to scan just to see if there's anything else out there that it would give us an indication as to where the United States, where we're going to go.
Okay, did it seem, aside from the State Department bulletin that yesterday afternoon, that and that didn't really make the news cycles until the evening, that the U.S. Embassy in Israel was going to close or be closed Wednesday through Friday. Aside from that,
the one was the embassy, and then the other one was the two different embassies that actually provide passports and whatever. They would be closed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, the president saying, surrender, we want a complete and full surrender. We know where the supreme leader is, but he's safe for now. I mean, all of these things seem to be like the prelude. Yesterday seemed to be the build-up day. So my question would be, if you're closing, if the State Department is doing all these closures starting today, I mean, they're closed today, through Friday, then how much of the plan is being implemented and rolling into action? How much of the mission will be started today? Because I have to believe that we expect between now and the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. and the way that he phrased it, when the dust settles, you're going to see some surprises Thursday night and Friday that will make the beeper operation, which was last fall, almost seem simple. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's all going to take place Thursday, Friday, but maybe that it's all going to be done by Thursday, Friday. It could be that starting today, there's going to be just a flurry of activity or events that play out here. And I think yesterday just felt like that prelude to the inevitable. It seemed like, okay, from the point the president came home early from G7, countered Macron's statement saying, no, this is not about a ceasefire. It's much bigger. And then the things that were said during the day yesterday, everything seems like the prelude that we should expect a very busy and active Wednesday through Friday period. You and I are trained to, and all our friends who do what we do, are trained to watch that breaking news. I mean, pretty much anybody who has internet is going to get the breaking news. But this may be one of those days where it's going to be hard to get some sleep between now and Friday, because the question becomes, and you and I have both kind of asked it throughout this morning. All right, what then? We know the goal, the two main goals. Set them back a couple of decades in their ability on nukes, and quite possibly take out the regime or have the regime surrender. I don't see that happening. But the regime is gone, leadership is gone, nukes are gone, or at least not a threat for this generation. So now what? What is the plan? Because one of the things, and I think Trump was very vocal over the years in criticizing presidents of not having an exit strategy, right? And I think Trump is one of those presidents who is not going to have a plan that involves so many boots on the ground that you have to ask what the exit strategy is. By the time you learn about what he's done, the exit has already happened.
Yeah, I don't think he wants an entrance strategy.
Exactly. That's a great point.
Unless it comes from the air.
Right.
You know, that was the whole thing when he took out Soleimani. The whole thing was, let's take out the leadership.
Yeah.
Why take out infrastructure? Why create a humanitarian crisis? Just take out what you've got to take out. Take out the nuclear buildings. Take out as much. Because he hasn't objected to Israel taking out the scientist. He hasn't objected to taking out any one of the generals or any other government officials that might have been killed so far. He hasn't objected. He's just looking at it saying, don't take out the Ayatollah at this moment, even though we know when he is. Now, we know where he is.
Right.
Now, you say that why? Because you want him to move? We know where you are. They don't know what message to believe anymore.
Right.
After you took off, after they took out those generals, and Israel did it by, and again, this probably could be a movie when you think about it. They made a phone call to someone, somewhere, or to all of those generals, and convinced all those generals. How they made the phone call, whether it was AI, how they did it, we don't know yet, but they made a phone call, got all those generals to the exact same location, and then blew it up and killed them all. You know, and so there is absolute panic going on right now of anybody that holds any higher position in the military in Iran or any high government official, because they don't know. And then by the ambassador coming out and saying, hey, we're going to do something that when the dust clears, people will say, whoa. Mm-hmm. And that's even thinking of what we did, with the whole beeper thing. They're still going to go, whoa. Well, that to me didn't sound like a bunker buster taking out something. That sounds like you're going to attack leadership, and you've got a way to kill them.
Yeah, right.
And so, you talk about disinformation based on actually the military tactics and attacks. When you, for example, put out, I guess it would be viewed as disinformation when you can make a phone call and convince the generals all to go somewhere, and then you kill them all. At that point, do you believe a phone call? Is there anything that you believe right now, if you're in the higher levels of government or the military in Iran, who the hell do you trust? And this is exactly that they're running around and they don't know what to do. They don't know what's coming at them. And then you continually bombard them with more messages where they're paralyzed. They may be shooting missiles off, but they're actually paralyzed in what the next step should be. But I think it was Mick Mulvaney who said, look, Trump isn't the kind of guy that's going to walk in. Mm-hmm. He's not going to walk in, sit down in the Situation Room and say, all right, what do we do? He's going to go in there and say, this is what I want done.
This is what I want.
How do we do it?
Right. If I can't get this accomplished, then we can't do it. That's exactly the way I see him.
And so I would surmise, and again, the pure speculation, but he would walk in and say, we need to get a bunker buster in there. Mm-hmm. All right? We also know, does he know what the plan is, what the new beeper plan is? Does he know that has Netanyahu told him we're going to take out a significant more high leadership in the military? And has Trump already made the decision? Because I imagine Trump walking in and saying, look, here's what I want to do. I want to destroy and set back their nuclear weapon building capability 20, 30 years. What do we need to do it? If we do it, are we going to affect much of the civilian population? No, you can tell them to move, and they will. Well, so far they have moved out of Tehran. We haven't heard of any massive losses of human life at all, have we?
No.
In Iran. So we take out all these particular things, whatever. Israel's going to take care of this. Israel's going to do this. And we're going to get to this point. Mr. President, what does unconditional surrender mean? Right. You put out the statement, unconditional surrender. You're in the Situation Room. You say you want this done. What do you mean by unconditional surrender? What do you want us to do precisely? They know. In the Situation Room, the military people know what Trump wants to do now.
Right.
We don't know. We have no idea what it is. We could speculate. We know he doesn't want mass civilian loss of life. We know that he doesn't want a humanitarian crisis. But we know that he wants to set back the nuclear weapon building potential of Iran. He wants it blown back 20, 30, 40 years. Don't know whether that's possible, but that's what his goal is. It might only be 10 years, but his goal, I believe, would be something that would be long-term. The other thing is he probably would agree with Israel that those that, did this and got, the nuclear weapons program up to the point where we had to make and do this decision, they need to be eliminated too. And how do you do that? Yeah. And then the next thing Trump would say is, how do we do this where a civil war doesn't happen and a humanitarian crisis happens? And they might say, well, look, if the people, if it is true, if the CIA knows that it's, as Netanyahu said, that it's actually an 80-20 issue, that 80% of them want the government gone. The transition in a country like Iran, which is very well educated and has the, modern conveniences and, very highly educated population, if they truly want a democracy, they can get a democracy. Now, you did see the Shah's son doing his video yesterday and saying we want a democracy.
Right,
and I'm thinking to myself, you're probably not the best salesperson for this, being the Shah's son. But his point is, he's when I saw Iranian president, I go, what are they talking about? That's the Shah's son. I go, oh, he still considers himself, in absentia, the president. But it's like, but, going from one authoritarian theocracy to in essence, a secular dictatorship, probably not what they want. But he says he wants a democracy, that he's a representative of building a democracy.
Yeah.
But I know exactly what I said, too.
Yeah.
But those are the questions that you have asked, and what would make me feel comfortable, I don't know, because I don't know what the answers I would get back from my military people as to what is possible and what you can do without destroying too much infrastructure. They took out a lot of the oil stuff, but do you want to completely destroy the grid over there? No, because you don't want a humanitarian crisis.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah. No, you don't want them. You don't want to be in a position where you're going to have to come in order to keep from dealing with, I don't know, massive amounts of refugees, potentially millions. If you take out a huge part of the infrastructure, that's essentially what you'd be dealing with. There's a humanitarian crisis that would have to be solved, and internationally that becomes an issue now, immediately. So you don't want that, which is in part what makes the Fordo target, that plant and its location, there's an advantage because we're talking an hour and 40 minutes roughly from Tehran. Not a great deal of population. It's in the mountains. It's deeply buried. If that's your target, of course, Tehran, what would be the target for the supreme leader? We don't know where he is. So I have to believe it's somewhere in a populated area. Is it even in Iran? Because that gets messy if he's not in Iran. So again, the thing about taking out Fordo, though, ultimately, if that's your big mission and using those in the big bunker buster, then you don't have to do too much damage to the infrastructure, quite hopefully.
Yeah.
And you don't have a humanitarian crisis that involves millions.
And will Trump be happy if they just take that out? If
let Israel handle the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose, including, the show ends in an hour. After the show is done, we record the entire show, and it becomes our podcast, so you can listen whenever you want, wherever you want, and if for some reason you can't listen to one of our great radio stations live while the show is actually on, we stream all 5 hours live on our Red Eye Radio app.
And thank you.
More coming up. What if Trump does use the bunker buster missile and Iran shoots missiles at United States ships? What happens then?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.